Well, welcome to Clean Up on Aisle 4, fixing broken Agile transformations with Kanban. And we're going to go ahead and get started here really fast, and of course, that doesn't work. So, and I apologize, I'm going to start off right now. Dimitar, I apologize. Kanbanize is not our primary tool. We do a lot of internal and external transformations. And in doing those transformations, we have a primary tool back here that we use for fixing broken transformations, and it's much more effective than Kanbanize. And Chris? Wait, and Chris?
And we use this combination for lipstick Agile. Gets everything out. It's wonderful.
So these are the different subjects we're going to, oops, we're already past that. So we're going to jump into some stories, and then we're going to talk about Chris and I and a little bit, and then go into the guts of what we're going to talk about. But no, we're not. So stop me if you've seen this. An executive comes to you and says, hey, you know, I really like that Spotify model. It's really cool. And the executive comes to us and says that, and this really happened. And we said, we tried to warn him. We said, it's not going to work. It's all scaling before you actually do the Agile transformation, before the change. So, but he ignored us, reshuffled the teams a little bit, maybe a little bit of reorganization in there, renamed some different meetings from status meetings. They magically became the new stand-ups. They're still an hour long, but we stand up for a long time. And the most important thing about Agile to him was we created guilds. Guilds were very important. And so we created guilds. Anyway, of course it didn't work. Another situation, this executive said, you know what, we got to get Agile. So he told it to a manager, and the manager said, okay. Manager did all the resource requests. I need to get a team because I don't know Agile at all. I need to get some good coaches. And went to finance. And what did finance say? Get a book. So where'd we end up? Big bang Spotify model. Surprise, surprise. And so no process visualization, all scaling before any foundational work. And what did we get? Complete disruptive chaos. And of course, no positive business outcomes. And we could go on and on and on.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we also find is that many of the people that we would meet would have their own definition of Agile.
Yeah.
And on one of the previous scenes, you may have seen a little icon. When I was younger, there was a game called Mr. Potato Head where you could put different eyes and ears. I call that Mr. Potato Head Agile. Because they would draw things from different elements, different frameworks, and believe it would work. And that's the environment that Scott and I tend to, work in and engage in with our stakeholders.
And by the way, love it.
Love it. It's lots of fun.
So real quick, these are the background slides. Scott Yankton, Global Program Director at IBM. We're both in IT security, and so we're doing an Agile transformation of IT security. I had a little bit different path coming to Kanban and being an Agile coach, an Agile whatever you want to call it. 15 years as a Chief Operating Officer, another 10 as a consultant in places like USC, Konami Gaming, IBM, USAA, a whole bunch of them. Used to be a bank examiner for the FDIC when I started my career. Used to be an air traffic controller. And I had to plug this, apologize. I have a podcast, The Outspoken Show with Scott and Curtis. And then I have a son who's a burgeoning rap artist because I look like a rap artist, right? So, and part of my childhood was right here in Rancho Bernardo. I grew up here when I was in junior high, and it was a pretty amazing place, you can tell, to live. Very, very, very cool. And with me today is my partner in crime by the last 5-6 years, Chris Ring.
Thanks for taking some time this afternoon to listen to us and hopefully engage. I've been with IBM 37 years, or if my memory serves, that's 25 hex. Is that right, Timur? Give or take. held a number of roles, but none more fulfilling as what I'm doing right now. As you can see, you could read the slide, operations executive, delivery executive, but what really pulled me towards Agile and Kanban specifically was how it allowed the people to engage with the process, with the iterations, et cetera. And unlike as my partner and colleague here, I've spent none of my growing up formative years in Rancho Bernardo, but I will tell you that Scott has been giving me the milestones in Scott Yankton's life in Rancho Bernardo. This is my high school. This is where I, went to the first dance. So it's been quite illustrative over time.
So a couple goals for what we're going to do today. We're going to focus on the best advice we can provide from our experience. We know that everybody's experience is different. Our experience isn't perfect. It's not the best. It's just our experience, and we want to share because we've done quite a few transformations together. And this is our best advice or our best help for you guys that we thought we'd bring. There's going to be minimal theorizing and philosophizing. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to talk about practical experience. And let's see. Our experience is very typically in IBM and also the companies that IBM works with that we do transformations for. It's typically in very large transformations at scale. If we're talking about IBM, very highly matrixed, very complex, and most typically not IT. So the business side, which presents us a whole host of other problems or fun stuff, depending on how you look at it. So as far as Kanban goes, Chris tells me not to say this out loud, but we don't really care about Kanban. It's the truth. We don't, except that it's the best method that we can find to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So if something else was better, we would have gravitated toward it. But we haven't found anything yet, so that's what we use. And it works pretty phenomenally. And in our presentation, we're hoping that you guys will stop us and ask questions. It gets really boring up here when you guys are just listening. So if you have a question, please stop us and ask. So before we go forward, anybody have any questions? No? Okay. So we're going to hit landscape, which is our world, a little bit about our framework, and then the money slides, the foundation that we use, and some key guidance. And we'll try to get through this with enough time for some questions at the end if you decide to wait. So our landscape. We have seen almost, I think I've one in the past 5 years?
Yep.
One IT or dev transformation in the past 5 years. We don't really see those anymore. We see primarily what we consider the green field for Agile and Kanban, and that's the business side, which is infinitely more complex. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So what we see typically is this shift to the left. And is that what you guys are seeing? Are you mostly seeing that shift to the left, or yeah? Okay, good.
Yeah, and that's not to say that what we do actually doesn't funnel into engineering and development.
Yeah, and we'll see that.
So we're on both sides of that particular divide.
So just so you know, if you guys get really bored and you start looking away, then we're going to find you, and then we're going to change it up and ask you questions. Okay, so there's that type of transformation we went to where it's mostly the shift to the left, but I'll say the type that we do the most is exactly our bucket and mop, is our cleanups or course corrections of Agile transformations that have gone wrong. That seems to be our bread and butter, and I think we've come to love them because you get to parachute in, you have no idea what it's going to be like, and then you've got to figure out how to set up base and grow that transformation. And in some cases, it's a truly disruptive transformation. And our current one is that way. It was super highly matrixed, very complex, and we're having to start in product management, which is upstream. So this is the framework that we use. We had to put this together because executives like very pretty pictures, and so that's what we did. We built them some really pretty pictures. The first thing we do, and it could be 20 minutes or it could be 2 months, is we do our fact finding. And that's just asking as many questions as we can and trying to understand the environment and the ecosystem with which they exist. Then from there, I'm going to say this again later. Every time we try not to do this, it doesn't work. So that's why we do this one all the time.
You might notice a little difference in what we're doing here is that in development, you have an implicit work type, which is more or less coding, building assets. Our work types are a huge service catalog, depending on who the client is that we're talking to and what we're focusing on. So just want to bear that in mind when we talk about, and Scott just referenced it, when we don't do the first 4 steps well, and if we don't pay attention to it, we find we pay the price. We have to go back. So, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can we hold on a sec? We'll get the microphone.
we warned them about you, but
Yeah.
You said to interrupt.
no.
Love
They
it.
want to record you, Dimitar.
Yes. I would like to ask you for some actionable guidance on how you identify work types. This might sound strange and maybe a little bit stupid, but a lot of our clients really struggle to define what a work type is. So do you have any formula or any recommendation how you do that? How big the work types are, how small, should they have a dollar sign attached to them? How do you do it?
We were talking about this earlier. That's a lot of the art. What we've distilled this down to is we definitely do it in Mural. We do it, it's typically virtual now, but we just get on Mural and we do a process of, what's the menu of services that you offer your internal or external customers? And then it's really a process of extruding and combining what it's going to be. It could be 2, it could be 50. I've seen 1. But we really start to, if it's 50, you typically combine those into smaller. And you might combine like processes. You might combine even dissimilar sizes because you can filter those out, but in the same line. And we typically end up about 5, right?
Yep, generally about 5.
About 5. And it almost always, but it's all art. I think that's what we were talking about with Dimitar earlier is sometimes you just need to go through it a bunch of times and fail. And then you kind of get it. And honestly, it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah,
That and value stream mapping.
most teams will start off by giving you tasks and associating them as work items. And as we carve that off, the iterative process starts, the light starts to come on and says, oh, I see what, my real work type here is an architectural diagram that's completed, blessed, and full with, okay, got it. And then once they've got that embedded in their mind, we're away to the races.
And this is an example one right here. This is for a recent architect team. They do new service design. We know that's a single process. We just ask questions to understand, okay, that seems like its own process. And then the next one, design improvements to an existing service and so on and so on. And honestly, if you have that big list of 20, you're doing just that. You're just asking questions to squish them down, maybe extrude them, and until everybody can head nod and say, yeah, that's it. Does that answer it? Yep. And then the next funnest thing, we value stream map. So number 3 is value stream mapping, and value stream mapping is really different depending on what you're doing. In development, it's like Chris said, it's very established. There's a couple things that can switch places, but in business, it's way different, way more complex. So typically, we'll start with the yellows, and the yellows are, what do you do in this column? What do you do in this column? What do you do in this column? But in the business side, you have a factor that we didn't know about when we first started doing it, and that's the amount of parallelism in the way that they do things. So, for instance, if you're product management, you've got go-to-market tasks, you've got straight product tasks, you've got architect tasks that you need to talk to, you've got development things you need to talk about, a lot of parallelism. So in those cases when it's incredibly complex, we may go straight to a spreadsheet and do exit criteria first, and then go back and name the value stream states. That make sense? Okay. Do you guys do the same thing, or is this anything new or different, or just what you guys do? Okay.
Okay.
Same thing, different context.
Pardon?
Same thing, different context.
Yep. So the first 4 steps: fact finding, breakdown, the value stream mapping, and then we build the Kanban board for them because we use Kanbanize, and it's just easier to get the first board for them. And someone else said it, the last 2 presentations said it, we try not to make it aspirational, we try to make it exactly the way that it is now. Every time we do aspirational, it bites us in the butt, so we don't do that. Number 5, Chris and I have done
75, 80?
75, 80 2-day seminars. Didn't work worth a damn. Nothing stuck. So what we've done is we now do targeted training. So we don't actually do any training, nothing, until they need it. And then it's typically around card writing, acceptance criteria, very, very targeted. And then provide a ton of targeted training, depending on whatever need. So that's pretty normal for us. And then after that, it gets kind of fuzzy. I'd say that's the less definite. The cadences could go before the training, who knows? One of the things you want to?
No, I was just going to say, the cadences, Michael talked about that before, make sure that the cadences match the needs of the business, not to be prescriptive in timing.
We probably do stand-ups and maybe retro, and then we just look for the pain, and we build a cadence around the pain. So that's a little bit on our foundation. This is the bottom part. This is more an executive slide for them. What are the immediate outcomes? The whole left side should be, we make it visible. The whole right side is really, we have metrics that we can make better decisions on how to proceed forward and get better.
And just bear in mind that the folks that we're dealing with, the stakeholders that we're dealing with, oftentimes the only readout they have on the health of their business is someone's impression of how well it is going and stuffing that into a PowerPoint, which is an opinion at a point in time, which is what we're really trying to move into, saying that the Kanban is your status board. This Kanban is showing your blockers. It is showing your volumes. And then we'll drill down from that a little bit later.
So let's go into some foundational items. Let me see really quick how I did that. Okay. This is just some foundational stuff before we go into the money slide for the stuff that we think is the most important lessons. This is the biggest difference for us. And that's, we're calling it ecosystem Kanban, but we start in product management. And we know we've got some ties into engineering because, of course, this is upstream Kanban from engineering. So we've still got ties. But in our place right now, the transformation we're doing now, that's very Jira-based. So that's a holy war. We're not going to take on that holy war because we're going to lose. So we have product management. But the cool thing about ecosystem Kanban is that we had to go out begging first. We had to find people who were up for it, who wanted it, and who wanted to be part of the ecosystem, and we found those early adopters. We don't do that anymore at all, because now the ecosystem has a gravitational pull, and now we've got procurement coming to us. The funny story is the way that Chris got Kanbanize approved was he showed Kanbanize to procurement, and they said, "Ooh, that looks kind of cool. We might want that." Okay, approved. So it's kind of cool. But go-to-market, compliance, all these are real. They're all happening, and they all want to be part of the ecosystem. And pretty soon you have those holdouts. They're over here in the corner, the only ones not in the ecosystem, and then they're wondering why. And so it has that gravitational pull to pull them into the ecosystem.
And there's a common element to their ask, which is, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where my requests are, what stage they're at. Do I have a reasonable expectation that it's going to complete on time? I've made some commitments. And so that, as we all know from a Kanban point of view, that uncertainty causes churn. And that's where we find, just in the last week, we've had 2 or 3 different folks or areas of the business come to us and basically say, people said we should come talk to you guys. We're not quite sure why, but can you help us out? And that just starts the discovery process. It's, you know, and we're trying to be like sponges and just, you know, understand what their business challenges are, because they'll fit. We can talk patterns, we can talk all that other good stuff, but we really want to develop, and we're developing an empathetic model so that they can get to done. Done equals dollars is the way we think about this stuff. Because until it's done, until somebody gives you money, it doesn't really matter.
I'd probably put a different spin on it. And by the way, Chris and I argue all the time.
Yep.
So this is our style. But I'd say it's more, I was saying at lunch, it's guerrilla warfare. We are the guerrillas, you know, the JIRA folks, and the rest of the organization, that's the establishment. And so we just try to play guerrilla warfare until we have a big enough ecosystem that it starts to pull over defectors. And that's what's happening.
Until our tool can beat up their tool.
Yeah, exactly. This is a older picture of what we got, but again, this is our product management organization. Nothing goes into engineering unless it goes through this board. And then all these linked workflows that we have are all the associated processes that have to have input into that. Go-to-market, architects, delivery, that's support.
And it's called front door for a reason, and it was referenced yesterday by one of the presenters. One of our key goals and objectives last year was to shut off the back doors, shut off those informal relationships where, you know, I know Susan in engineering and she can open up that port for me. I'll just give her an instant message to see if that, and then all of a sudden you've got mayhem and churn and context switching in development.
The thing, I don't know how you guys. There's a question. Oh yeah, please.
I know you wanted to do Mike. So I've been doing a lot of work with closing back doors recently, having a single front door. And you mentioned, I think you said religious debate earlier. So right now I'm experiencing a religious debate between using work request forms, submission forms, and those who want to have that more personal relationship with the customers that we serve, the internal customers. Say everything has to be done through a product owner, meeting with those folks and doing that, you know, face-to-face interaction. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that religious debate of intake forms versus the face-to-face interaction.
Can we defer that question because we address it directly in a couple
okay,
minutes?
cool. Yeah.
But we will answer it.
All right.
Yeah, keep us honest on that. Make sure we bring it
Yeah.
up.
I'm not sure if you guys experience the same, but I was having a conversation with one of the guys he didn't go to the 2004 meeting for Agile, to that first meeting, but he was on that second tier, definitely one of the OGs. And we had this argument first in agreement. Acceptance criteria are really the core of Agile. You can teach almost everything that you need to know about Agile. We used to joke about this with give and when then. But we use give and when then, especially if it's going to touch development somewhere, as the common protocol across the company. So I'm not sure if that works for you. Again, this is just our experience, but it's super important for us to have a common language or a protocol to talk across the company. And that's what we use give and when then, acceptance criteria. Really a lot of resistance in the beginning, but now you can't get things done without it. And it was just, well, we'll talk about how we got there, but really, really important. And of course, you know, the other things, you know, it's your test plan, it's the easiest way to break down epics, and on and on and on. Okay, this is my favorite slide. Our team culture, I don't know how you guys have your team culture. Our team culture is we argue like cats and dogs. Mm-hmm. Chris and I are constantly arguing.
Yep.
No, we're not. Yes. Anyway, we are.
Not always.
It's this internal, robust debate that really helps us be as effective as we are. I don't know if it works for you, but we love that open exchange, and we're not afraid. It's always best set of facts wins. So if we have to change 90 degrees or 180 degrees based on the latest facts, cool.
It wasn't a conscious decision. It's probably part of our personalities. But also, when we engage in that healthy discourse, not just between Chris and Scott, but if we're engaged with a team, they see that it's okay to disagree. And that's really one of the key elements to pulling them into the process, because they'll see, oh yeah, and it provides context. It provides future engagement. And it provides a safe place for them to comment on things. And one of the other things, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, I'm jumping ahead a little bit from a tooling perspective, and Scott will talk a little bit about that, but we'll be I'll paint a scenario. We're in a discussion with some of our client-facing team, and they'll say, you know what, I think the board really needs to do X instead of Y. And we leverage the awesome functionality that Dimitar's Kanban tool has. We'll change it through administration immediately if we think it's a really good idea that's non-disruptive. That sends a huge message to the people that we're engaged with. Trust, my opinion means something. If everybody agrees, we'll change it. It really cements that notion of participation. So it's really cool. And you know what? If we made a mistake, we back it out. No harm, no foul. We tried.
So I know we're talking about Commonize a lot, and it's not just a shameless plug. If you know our history, at IBM we had our own internal tool, and Chris and I were key parts of that internal tool, and took it from about 3,000 users to 70,000 users, and it's still used in Kyndryl because I went with Kyndryl, and spent quite a bit of time working on that tool. And so of course preferred that tool, but we had hit that functionality wall that you hit with tools that don't quite have enough. You think, oh, this will be fine, and then you hit that functionality gap the first time somebody says, hey, can I do this? And then that ruins your momentum. We were looking for a tool, and we found Commonize, and it is, and this is later, I shouldn't even be saying it now, but it's the first time that our practice had a tool that we could expand into. And that was saying something, even from people who built their own tool and then needed to find a different tool.
Yeah, I would make the joke that, I loved our old tool at 8 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock, I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to get the new tool in as quickly as possible, because we could just see all of those boundaries were crumbling for us.
So this is our preachy slide to everybody is, I don't know how you guys feel, but you're busy doing transformations, and you're busy, you're cranking, you're doing your training. We always make ourselves eat our own cooking. We have our transformation board. We make sure that we're doing it so we're living and breathing the same thing as them. We even make sure we put acceptance criteria on all of our cards, so we're making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to. And this helps us live their life. So it's up to you, of course, but that's something we found really important for us. In fact, Chris the other day said, hey, we haven't had a stand-up in a while, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, time to have a stand-up. We talked about earlier, whenever we don't do the first 4 steps, it's always a mess. So we always do the first 4 steps and we stay out of trouble. And then probably a little bit different is we're in a really big company that has a lot of power and influence with people that are way smarter than us. I mean, it's not like it's even a debate. These people that we work with are incredibly smart. So we just really work to truly understand their pain and what's going on and try to help them out as best we can. We try to remove their pain. And that's really a big part of the empathy that drives the success of the transformations that we've done. And again, wish it didn't matter. I wish tooling didn't matter at all, but it does. We are 100% remote. There is no way we're ever going to be back in the office. We have to do it electronic. We're not going to be co-located. It's just not going to happen with 350,000 people.
Yeah, and until 3M can figure out a logic that says I can't move this sticky from this column to this column, we're just going to be virtual on this stuff because, yeah, we love the idea of getting together. There's real value in getting together, but we've really pivoted our practice to be completely virtual.
Yeah, we were lucky. About 6 months before COVID, because of expense reduction, we had to go all remote. So for us, we didn't miss a beat, and we're just used to it now. We complained a lot, but it's fine now. Okay, so this is the money slide. This is where the mop hits the floor, and it's the stuff that we want to offer to the community as best we can. And it's not you. If it's not you guys, cool. But this is the best advice that we can give. Okay, selling it to executives. We use MVP. So first of all, we're looking for executive pain. When on our latest transformation, the pain was an unconstrained inbound to product management. Or take that back, into engineering. So we immediately volunteered for that. That was our way to land. So we always look for pain relief from the executive level. That's our foot in the door. Then we always try to provide pretty pictures to executives. It always works. They love pretty pictures. Show me a dashboard. You know, I love dashboards. We've never called it a dashboard in our life. We call it the metrics page. Don't care. It's a dashboard. Because they love dashboards.
If you want a dashboard, it's a dashboard. Okay.
Yes, yes. Yeah, this is the dashboard that you want.
And what this does, I'll just take Scott back a slide. One of the things that I really like, and I'm talking about inside baseball, about Kanban, is the ability of a Kanban tool to actually create your own set of metrics based on the process that you value stream map. So if you've got an issue with, let's say, vendor management or procurement, or there's a particular third-party vendor, you can start to instrument, and by that I mean, how much time did that card stay in that work state while you're waiting for completion? Do you have a service level expectation on that? That's we're trying to create a language that the executives recognize and resonates with them. And when we do it this way, they instantly get it. They instantly see through this, because in a lot of cases where I've been involved, a lot of the time has been spent on the heavy lifting of getting the metrics. And now we're having a more engaged, more in-depth discussion, a more critical discussion, because we're focusing on what's important to them, as opposed to what the tools or what someone's impression was that they wanted to present to the execs. And we're talking about a lot about execs. It's not just about for the execs either. It's really for the teams too, because it's their conduit to upper level management that says, this is really working well, this needs help. It's a really, really short pipe between A and B when we do it that way.
This was another foot in the door. There was a senior product manager that said, hey, I just want to see my stuff without a deck and a status meeting. We have a lot of companies that love to report via PowerPoint. And I don't know, I heard a laugh. You guys experience that? Isn't it awful? I refuse to do PowerPoint because I'm so sick of them. Yeah. So this is Prezi, just so you know. This is Prezi because I hate PowerPoint. And we know that the data in a PowerPoint it's all made pretty for the executives. It's not real. It's a lie. Yeah, it's a lie. Exactly. So
we like to view it as one person's opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was just asking, hey, I just want to see my stuff without a deck, waiting 2 weeks, and a status meeting, and all the time to prep that deck. I want to know how close it is to done. I want to know my risks. I want to know what the detail is behind my risks. And so that was another foot in the door for getting into product management.
Yeah, I'll just, a little personal anecdote there. When I was growing up, I had a friend that used to really party hard on Friday nights. And I didn't realize he was actually training me for future, because on Saturday morning he would wake up and ask 3 questions. Where am I? How did I get here? And how do I get home? And so, I raise that just for sort of the humorous element of it, but that's in sense what anybody wants to know as a product manager. How close to done am I? Do I have any roadblocks? What do I need to get done? What do we need to focus our time on?
So please practice that tonight and give it
Yes.
a shot. You did it last night? So you're an early adopter. Very nice.
So-
Very nice.
So you've got home, so you are done. That's excellent.
Okay, if you can't tell, we hate big bangs. I'm sure you guys do too, but we love pilots. We feel like we're paratroopers. You know, we parachute in wherever. We try to get into friendly territory, but we don't always. So we're looking, if we can, to land in a friendly area. We want to build that momentum and buzz as much as we can, wherever we can get it. Whatever's a friendly team, that's what we're doing. We're going to do very targeted learning. I'm not sure how that explosion got there, but that's pretty interesting. Nice.
That was supposed to be on the Big Bang pilot.
I guess Prezi is still in beta after 10 years, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, welcome. So that's Big Bang, that's pilot. So anyway, expanding throughout that ecosystem. And again, we're expanding in that ecosystem until we create our own gravity. And that's a beautiful thing to watch. So hopefully you can experience that.
We're experiencing this in the last couple of weeks. I mentioned
In the
a little
latest
bit
one,
earlier.
yeah.
Poll. You know, we've almost created a poll where people are coming to us with business issues that they want to discuss. And a little more, I want to pick up some threads on presenters that have gone yesterday and today. You know, there's lots of discussion about education and, you know, working yourself out of a job. We look at it slightly differently in that when we are doing these pilots, we're looking at, you can call them early adopters, the early champions, the people that really get it, that are really enthused about it. And if we work with them, if we infuse the Kanban, the Agile principles with them, they become the next line of defense, so to speak. They go forward and populate. To the point now where some of the most gratifying meetings that I'm on, a year ago, these people really had no idea of Kanban. They had really little idea of Agile. And it's like, well, did you update your card? What's the acceptance? Your acceptance criteria aren't enough. I can see the blockers. I can start to see the dependence. All of a sudden, they're starting to model the approach, which is really, really cool to see.
Okay, a big one. Someone brought this up in the last couple of presentations, but since we're in a really big company with a lot of people and a lot of politics, and it's pretty complex, very highly matrixed, which is a big deal. We just know you got to play the long game. You can't think of it as anything other than put one foot in front of the other, inch by inch. You know, we think of it as a barge in a canal, and you need to turn it around. It's inch by inch. So I'll start on the right here on, you know, you got to learn the ecosystem and the culture. For us, it's really important. We got to learn sorry, didn't mean to do that to you guys. We got to learn the ecosystem and the culture so that we know how much we can push, because we all know our job is to push people in the back. And it's how much or how little, depending on the culture. And so we've got to really understand what we can get away with, because we're always asking for forgiveness. We never request permission. Chris was just talking about leveraging those early adopters as force multipliers. Huge. We used to call them champions, I know. We tried the champion thing, didn't work for us ever. So they just are what they are. They're early adopters that end up being great help. And we encourage the crap out of them as much as we can. Of course, you guys already know this. Seek opportunities to make the transformation theirs. Other people said that. Don't underestimate the value of empathy followed by action. It's been one of the biggest cultural differences is we're now a source of how to solve pain and listening and moving forward. So people start to come to that campfire to commune and to get stuff done. And it brings more and more people. Okay. So I had to ask myself a serious question about executive support. Who's had executive support in here? Okay, 4. Excellent, nice. I wish I could be you. Never had it. And so what we do is we have executive support, but we call it PAL. It's passive aggressive leadership. As long as the passive aggressive is in our favor, we're cool.
Yeah.
So
As long as they're trending passive, we're good.
Yeah.
Right.
So the thing is that we're happy as long as they're not in our way, and we realize that. I mean, it'd be super cool if we had the same leaders they did, but we don't. So we don't have leaders that are going, and I don't think many will, that are going to expend the political capital necessary to take something that's as scary as Kanban and move it forward. Most of them are going to sit back, they're going to stay out of your way, and maybe help you in the background, but they're not going to do any overt actions, and we're very comfortable with that. And in fact, we're to the point where if they at least give us PAL, that passive aggressive
delighted.
leadership, we are so cool, as long as they're not in our way.
What do you do if they trend more aggressive?
The question was, what do they do? What do we do if the leadership is more aggressive?
They're less passive, more
Less.
Well, I think the point is that they're aggressive in a passive way, right? So what I meant is projecting passive aggressive outward. They're not going to blatantly use, okay, you want to know the other thing. So I'm saying they won't blatantly use their political capital. We're fine with that. We haven't run into that. Maybe you do. We have.
I'll say I've run into it a couple of times.
Oh, you did too at State.
Yep.
Oops,
And
sorry.
the Voldemort of
Yep, there we
financial
go.
institutions. I found that a sustained attack of logic and data was the best course. Delivered in a manner that was respectful and cooperative and collaborative, not confrontational. Because many, and I say, Scott and I talk about this quite often, many of the people that we deal with reach their level of leadership through their behaviors that are coercive and, insert your own management model there, 9-1, what have you. And you have to recognize that that's their playing style. And so we just try to work with it as much as we can. We've got a slide coming up on that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's actually you're right. We have a slide coming up on just that. And we just jokingly call this Kondom. We don't do that. That's that Kanban where you dominate people and you make them do it. Doesn't work for us.
Yes.
Yet that really hard shove in the back, you're going to go this direction, that just never works for us. It always bites us in the butt.
You will like this. You will love this. Trust us.
Yeah, you will love this. Doesn't work.
This is not the Agile you're looking for.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
guys.
what?
Oh,
Yes, sir. Can I help you?
Okay, all right. So guys, I have a question about don't underestimate the value of empathy followed by action.
Okay.
In our experience, a lot of potential clients come to Kanbanize and they ask, hey, how can you help me? And we show them around. We don't have the Gantt charts, we don't have the burn down charts and stuff, and they say, I thought you could help me out, but now you can't. How strong do you push back when teams come to you for help and they think you do something, but then you do something a little bit different that is repulsing them? Do you just sit back and wait and say, okay, when you're ready, come back to me? Or you give them something to just hang on to, and then you gradually try to educate them?
I'll speak for myself. I don't know, Scott, I stepped on you there, but having worked a lot in service delivery, very familiar with the 5 whys. And I would probably sort of transition into, well, why do you think you need a Gantt chart? I would try to get to the idea, the nugget of why they think they need what they just asked for.
By the way, we've made Gantt chart a dirty word in our organization, so that's a success. So that took a long time, but we were successful on that. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, one of the other chart, we oftentimes pivot. We try to pivot them as much as we can on a diagnostic discovery approach. Not to say that what they want isn't right, no matter how much we might believe that. We want to get underneath that nugget of what is it you really want from a Gantt chart? And do you get that? Well, no, I never get it, but I want it. Well, then let me tell you about what we can do with, tails and lead time histograms and things like that.
We do acknowledge that everybody has their own process, so we just try to let them go their own process. We're not forcing anybody to do anything. Unless it's talking about Gantt charts, then we force them. So another big area, baby steps. Again, we know that step by step by step, we're not expecting huge things. So it's inches a day with occasional leaps that you can all do high five with your Agile team. That's super cool. We love those. We are always testing the organizational change speed. So we always ask for, or beg forgiveness rather than ask for permission. You may not be able to do it at your company, but it works great for us. And so far, we haven't been pushed back on anything.
Well, we're here, so that's a good example.
Exactly. So this one right here, I don't know about you guys, we always get them. There are always some blindsided, just crappy thing that comes along, and you just can't let them get down. You get with your team, you bitch and moan, and then you move on, and that's what we do. There's always setbacks to these. We already talked about nurture and celebrate early adopters, find that executive pain to solve, huge. And then the acknowledgement that we're all just a bunch of cat herders. I don't know about you guys, that's why we said the first 4, that's our plan, and then we know it'll all be different after that. So we're all just cat herders. You guys feel the same? Yeah, exactly. Did I miss one?
No, you're good, you're good.
Oh yeah, and broken transformations, personally, we love them. Because all that pain just means we have work to do, which is really cool. So we try to take that attitude, and that helps us out a lot, so we don't get discouraged. And we're naturally optimistic anyway, but we like that stuff. Please.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we get back to your question too.
Did we?
No, you did not.
No.
What was the question?
Yeah, well, we deferred them until now. He
Okay.
didn't ask the question.
With broken transformations, do you find there's a stigma that left behind with the last transformation that you have to kind of overcome?
yeah.
Oh yeah, oh God, yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of leftover stuff, and
Yeah.
we just honestly, I'm gonna go forward here really quick on something, and then I'm gonna come back to these because you keep bringing this up, and this is to answer your question too. We behave exactly like water, or there's 2 ways we do it. If we have someone who's a detractor that just is impossible, awful to deal with, a horrible person, we always seek to isolate that person. We isolate them as best we can. But except for that isolation, and I would tell you the different version, except we're in a public forum, but we isolate them. But also we try to be like Bruce Lee and the other ones. We try to be like water. And that means sometimes you just go around. It's not worth the battle. You don't have to be a hammer looking for a nail.
Yeah.
But then there are rocks that are in the water that are there. You just wear them down. Over time, you erode them away. So we know, Chris and I we're pretty good at this, is just wearing people down. We just, go on our merry way and keep on wearing them down until they're done.
I want to make sure we get back to this gentleman over here before
Okay.
we.
Did that answer your question, though? I think
No,
that was
he
your.
didn't have his question yet.
Oh.
Should we get the mic
Oh,
over
yeah,
to him?
sorry. I thought that would answer your question, huh?
No. You were convincing, but incorrect. So,
Yeah, my question was on the subverting the backdooring, having a single front door. The debate between using intake forms, which, spoiler, I'll just say that's the side of the debate I fall on, versus leveraging the more interpersonal relationship between somebody, a PO or whoever it might be for the inbound.
well, a lot depends, and only you know what it depends on. It always comes down to, unless there is some guardrails instituted, you're then accepting some level of churn and leakage into your back end. That may or may not be qualified. They're jumping the queue, they're getting the fast pass. Maybe it's a relationship. So there's a cost to pay. It's a matter of, there's a choice to make whether or not you want to keep that valve open or not. And we find that generally when we talk with people,
Yeah.
they go, yeah, but it's really important. It's important to you, but is it more important than maybe getting an audit compliance out the door, or some other sort of fix?
The answer to your question is really big because it's a really hard path to get to.
Yeah,
And we did a series of steps.
It is equivalent to whack-a-mole.
Yes.
I'll grant you that. You're constantly batting it down.
We had cadences, cross-team cadences, and we made them duke it out. We even went to the extent to where we made them pick their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we made teams get together after that and choose the 1 through 20, and they had to duke it out to figure out who's going to be 1 and who's going to be 20. Because according to them, they were all number 1, and they all wanted to go the back door, the side door, whatever way. So it was truly a process of whack-a-mole.
Or
And a long
a
path.
virtual cage match,
Yeah.
which is what we say. In
So
a sense,
I-
like, if you think it's important, talk to your colleagues and really, come to an agreement.
We even did a calculator for scoring, and I mean, we did everything. And so it just takes a long time to figure out what works for you.
Sorry. So in your opinion, are you saying, hold on one sec.
I'll repeat it. It's okay, Genevieve.
So in your opinion, are you saying that there's not really a best method, just the one that works in your organization? Like,
No, it's actually
Request
somewhere in the middle of
forms.
it. I have an analogy that might not play very well, but oftentimes when we're in an engagement, it's much like a quarterback coming up to the line of scrimmage, and that's why it's a sports analogy. We do not mind calling an audible. We do not mind bringing a different set of tools if the tools that we thought we'd have to bring to it aren't appropriate. So we're very comfortable, and that's why it's not so much a pattern. We're reaching into our bag of capabilities based on the situational awareness that is presented to us.
So
Because
yeah, we don't think there's any best answer. I think
Right.
we are, between the two of us and the folks we work with, we're just very determined, and we just keep on plugging away until we find the right path.
And honestly, we try to take the other side of it. If somebody's coming at us with passion, there's really probably a really good reason for that. So we want to get that emotion out of the discussion until we're down to the facts.
And Chris
So-
and I have this thing, we like to take those people that are the biggest detractors, and it's like a contest, can we turn them?
Can we turn them?
Yep, it's our fun thing we do.
I like that. Okay. Thank
Does that help? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the end result of the best practice here is whichever one team will adopt.
And let them go at their own speed.
Yep.
Maybe their direction's over here and you want to go here, but they need to feel the pain. What's that? Okay, I'll go quick. This is the answer to your question. Where'd you go? This is what
Honest.
This is
This
what
is
we
the third
said.
time.
And if it's not, then I quit. No, make the desired path the easiest path. Make every other path that they're trying to get in painful as hell. And we did this very purposefully, and we made it very difficult. So you always, and I even got people saying this that are on the teams. They all know this. The desired path has to be the easiest one, because people always go the path of least resistance. So make it the path you want. Let's see, where are we? Don't be afraid to pivot. We don't care. Best set of facts. We are going to pivot. If someone has a great idea, and it's hard to keep your minds and your eyes fresh, if you hear a great idea from the field, give it a shot. We do, all the time.
We tend to do a lot of things on this, we'll show up to the same sort of discovery sessions because we also find that if Scott's leading the call, he's going to be missing some of the themes and trends that are going on in the background and vice versa. So that's one of those little nuggets that we've determined that we do a debrief after that. And he said, did you hear the trend of how those questions were going? There must be something more over there that we need to plumb into.
And then the last part is, from what you've heard, what's your biggest takeaway? We're curious about what you're taking away from this. Anybody? Somebody? MVP?
MVP?
Oh yeah, the way to sell. Yeah, nice. Anybody else walk away with something worthwhile?
Yell it out. We'll repeat it.
We're not alone.
Yep, we know.
That the system is the data, not your presentation, right? That the insights are inside of your application that you're using to manage.
Your workflow is your data, and your data is your workflow. And that's where we're really trying to get to.
One more comment.
Sorry.
I like that you told about the desired path and the easiest path. I believe, for my opinion, in Brazil, we have a situation that we have so many people talking about Scrum, but when you implement Kanban, we don't talk about Kanban. We do the things. It's not a problem to have a sprint. It's not a problem to have a planning.
Yep.
But use your metrics and use this to see the problems about the flow. So that kind of thing that you told about, for me, it's very, very important to have a strategy to implement Kanban in your organization.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.